Hey guys, welcome back. It is that time of year. My earnings forecast for AMC Theaters Q3 2025. I'm going to take the box office now that it is complete. We see the number here on the screen, 2.367 billion, and I'll put that in the spreadsheet. I will take into account the corporate actions that happened during Q3. There was some debt restructuring. I'm hearing a lot of, in my opinion, misinformation about how that is going to impact the results. And I'll show you the spreadsheet, and we will find out in 5 or 6 weeks how correct I was. I am not the definitive answer on these results. There's a lot of calculating that AMC is going to have to do relative to the debt restructuring. This is just my best guess, and I welcome your guys' questions, comments, and input down below. If we look at what analysts are expecting for AMC for Q3, we have revenue of 1.24 billion and earnings per share of negative 20 cents on stockanalysis.com, looking at all of the analysts together. Looking over on Yahoo Finance, we have 7 analysts compared to 8 on stockanalysis.com. It's probably mostly the same people, but I like to compare multiple sources to my spreadsheet. And they have on the lower half of the screen here the average estimate for AMC's Q3 revenue at 1.21 billion. And on the top half of our screen, we see that they have forecast the earnings per share average estimate, negative 18 cents per share. With that in mind, let's see how these numbers stack up to my spreadsheet. Don't worry, this is not going to be a 30 or 40-minute video where I talk to you about Q4 expectations, because you're here for one thing. What do I think is going to happen in Q3? So let's just dive right into that. You guys know, if you've watched my previous videos, I usually give a range because, you know, it's hard to say for sure what market share percentage AMC captured. But I'm going to do the unusual and just hide this high range. I don't think AMC in Q3 2025 got 32% of the market. So we're only going to look at 28% and 30%. And this is actually the low, is the one that I'm going to go with for my official best guess. There are a lot of assumptions that go into creating a spreadsheet like this. I do the best I can using previous data and my understanding of what went on during that quarter, and using the box office that we have here up at the top, 2.36 billion. I have admissions at 662, food and beverage around 417, and other at about 116. That gives us a total revenue for the quarter of around 1.2 billion, let's call it. When we take out the total cost of revenue, which is comprised of film exhibition costs, food and beverage cost, and operating expense plus rent, I have that total cost of revenue at 1.04 billion, let's call it. That leaves the company a rough gross profit of $158 million. We still have other expenses we need to remove, including this other bucket plus depreciation and amortization. I mostly just look back at the previous quarters and use roughly a similar number for the current quarter. That now knocks the operating profit to $23 million. And then we still need to take out interest expense and add in or subtract this bucket called other expense and income. Let's first talk about corporate borrowings, because the debt was restructured from what we had in Q2 to new numbers in Q3. And AMC did a lot of shuffling around, and I'm seeing people think that this is going to be a reduction in the corporate borrowing cost. I'm not calculating it that way. That's not what I'm seeing. Because of the July 2025 debt restructuring, go look at the effective interest rates of all of the new debt instruments that AMC restructured to. We have higher interest rates, considerably higher interest rates. And so my forecast is that the ongoing quarterly corporate borrowing expense will go up by about $9 million or so. I'm forecasting an increase from last quarter, where the company reported 109 million. By my rough calculations, and I could be wrong, but my calculations are showing it's going to be around 118 million corporate borrowing expense for Q3. If we stopped right there, that would give AMC a net loss for the quarter on GAAP earnings, generally accepted accounting principles, of $105 million or a negative 21 cents, which is very similar to what Stock Analysis and Yahoo said. However, I said we would come back to this bucket of other expense and income. And based on some guesswork here, there's other things we need to account for in this quarter. The price action of Hycroft, that roughly $40 million of debt reduction that AMC talked about on October 1st, which was posted at the end of September, so it will show up for Q3, and the other debt reshuffling that the company did. And, you know, depending on what discount rate and what fair value you use, or what AMC is going to use when they do these calculations, one of those numbers could vary pretty radically. I think from Hycroft, we're going to see about $11 million of gain on here. Obviously, the $40 million of debt reduction, that is a gain. But I think there's going to be an expense between $0 and $150 million that is going to hit non-cash expense. This is not cash that the company's spending, but it will impact the income statement. If I add those numbers up, 11 million plus 40 million plus between 0 and 150, and I think it's going to be closer to 150. Now we have $100 million extra expense hitting Q3 because of the debt restructuring in July. I don't know. This is very tough. This is the thing that I have the most uncertainty about. I could be completely wrong about this number. Like I said, it could be between 0 and negative 150 million. But if that is the case, if it's negative 150 and then we add in the 40 million and the Hycroft, we get negative 100, a expense here, that would drop the GAAP numbers to negative 200 million and negative 40 cents. Please keep in mind, whatever these GAAP numbers end up being, these are mostly one-time expenses related to the debt restructuring, and AMC will also be reporting adjusted net profit and adjusted earnings per share, taking out those one-time expenses. So you might see radically different numbers when the final reports come out. You'll see two set of numbers, and they could be radically different from each other because of these one-time expenses. And you need to know if you're looking at GAAP earnings or adjusted earnings. Depending on how that debt restructuring impacted this bucket of other expense slash income, I think, you know, we'll see net profit or loss between 100 million and 200 million negative. We're looking at that very bottom number here on the very left-hand column. I'm sorry that I can't be more precise. I'm not sitting there running the books on AMC, calculating fair value of how they restructured the debt. We'll find out together. But suffice to say, it's going to be a negative number. I don't think that that is any big surprise to you guys. But depending on what numbers we crunch for the debt restructuring, it could be considerably worse, possibly, than some people are expecting. And then, you know, we'll talk about the adjusted numbers instead, I'm sure. I will close out by saying Q4 is going to be good. I think we all see that coming. But there is also that one thing that nobody will talk to you guys about except us here on this channel. And then that is, there is a proxy statement coming your way, probably sometime after October 11th, maybe as late as early November, but sometime mid-October, there's going to be a proxy statement coming where AMC is going to propose to you in some manner to increase the share count. There's going to be a lot of talk in this community about focusing people on Q4 box office and absolute refusal to talk about the proxy statement. I'm not going to do you guys dirty like that. I want you to have all of the information so that you can make the best choices for what you decide to do with any investment that you might have in AMC. As for me, I'm out of the trade until I see what is on the proxy statement. I've been out of the trade since November 2024. Let me know if you have any questions or comments down below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video.